You probably know someone brilliant who keeps ruining their own opportunities, and someone average who seems to thrive everywhere they go. Emotional intelligence explains most of that gap. A team meeting hits a tense moment. One person feels their jaw tighten and their voice start to rise, and catches it, takes a breath, and softens their tone before speaking. That is self-awareness meeting self-management, back to back, in real time. Across the table, someone else notices a colleague go quiet and pale after an offhand comment, and quietly checks in with them once the meeting ends instead of moving on. That is social awareness turning into relationship management. Neither of these skills shows up on a resume, yet both are running quietly under the surface of nearly every meeting, negotiation, and difficult conversation two people ever have. A person can ace every case study and still miss a room going cold around them, talk over a friend who just needs to be heard, or escalate an argument a calmer colleague would have diffused in seconds. Two employees with nearly identical technical resumes can end up on completely different career paths, and the difference usually traces back to exactly these four skills. One notices their own frustration before it leaks into their tone, reads the room, and adjusts. The other does not, and keeps getting blindsided by reactions they never saw coming, confused every time, never connecting it to the pattern underneath. Researchers pull the personnel files of a company's top performers and its average ones, laying the two stacks side by side to see what actually separates them. 2/3 of the traits that show up more often in the top stack have nothing to do with technical skill. They are about how someone handles pressure, reads a room, and works with people. A new hire's resume gets them through the door on technical qualifications alone. Watch that same person 5 years later in a leadership role, and the deciding factor is different. Whether they can stay steady in a tense negotiation, sense what a room actually needs, and rally people who do not even report to them. Climb the org chart floor by floor, and the pattern gets stronger, not weaker. Because by the executive level, nearly everyone already has the technical credentials, so that stops being what separates anyone. A brilliant engineer stalls 2 levels below a less flashy colleague who somehow keeps getting promoted, and nobody around them can quite explain why. The engineer blames office politics. The real answer sits in the room itself. Leadership is a relational skill wearing a strategic costume, and the people who rise furthest are the ones who mastered reading and responding to emotion, not just information. A small child sits crying on the kitchen floor, and a parent glances over and says there is nothing to cry about, then walks away to finish making dinner. The child stops crying, but nothing about the feeling actually resolved. It just went underground, with no adult ever helping name what happened. Years later, that same child, now grown, feels a flash of anger in a meeting and slams a laptop shut instead of pausing to notice what triggered it. The feeling arrives and skips straight to action, a slammed door, a sharp comment, a sudden silence, with no step in between where the person actually stops and identifies what just happened inside them. Without that step repeated thousands of times in childhood, the skill of reading emotion in yourself never gets built, and neither does the related skill of reading it in others, since people learn to recognize feelings in other faces by first learning to recognize them in their own body. None of this is really about a cruel parent. That same parent, as a child, once sat on their own kitchen floor, heard the same words, and simply repeated the only model they were ever given. The result, decades later, is an adult with a sharp mind and almost no functional vocabulary for what they are actually feeling in the moment. A manager reads a mildly critical email, feels a spike of heat in their chest, and fires back a sharp reply within 90 seconds, before ever pausing to consider whether the message was actually an attack. In a meeting down the hall, a joke lands badly and the room goes quiet, but the person who told it keeps talking, cheerfully oblivious, while everyone else exchanges a glance. Later that week, the same person walks into a tense budget meeting, radiating the same upbeat energy they would bring to a birthday party, completely misreading the room's actual temperature. When a colleague gently flags a mistake in their work, they hear an attack instead of information, and spend the rest of the meeting defensive instead of listening, in exactly the moment listening mattered most. And when a grieving coworker needs a few quiet words, they get the same brisk, efficient tone reserved for a routine status update, because flexing tone to match a person has simply never been practiced. None of this looks like malice from the outside. It looks like someone running one fixed setting regardless of what the room actually needs, a skill gap showing up in behavior long before anyone ever puts a name to it. A brilliant analyst delivers flawless reports quarter after quarter, and still watches a less technically gifted colleague get the promotion instead. Again, nobody ever puts the real reason in writing on a performance review, so the analyst chalks it up to office politics and keeps producing the same excellent, unrewarded work. What is actually eroding sits underneath the work itself. Colleagues who used to loop them into early conversations start routing decisions around them instead, quietly, without ever announcing it. A project needing someone trusted with a messy, ambiguous situation goes to someone else, and the analyst hears about it secondhand. Invitations to the informal conversations where real influence gets built, the hallway chats, the pre-meeting check-ins, dry up one by one, so gradually that no single missing invitation ever looks like evidence of anything. The feedback that would explain all of this never arrives directly. It shows up as silence, as thinner explanations, as a promotion that goes to someone else for reasons nobody quite spells out. By the time the pattern becomes visible enough to name, years have usually already passed, and the person still excellent at the work itself is the very last one to understand what happened to their career. A person sits down with a notebook after a rough day and starts to write "I feel bad," then stops, crosses it out, and writes "frustrated," because I said yes to something I did not have time for, instead. That one swap, from vague to precise, visibly calms something in their body within seconds, because naming a feeling exactly activates a part of the brain that stays quiet when the feeling is left blurry. In a different moment, mid-argument with a partner, the same person catches themselves before firing back and instead pauses to picture what the day might have looked like from the other side of the table, what they do not know, what pressure they might be under, before responding. After a hard conversation with a coworker ends, instead of immediately moving on to the next task, they take 60 seconds at their desk to ask what they actually said, how it probably landed, and what they would adjust next time. None of these 3 habits demand years of practice to start showing results. A labeled feeling, a paused reaction, a 60-second review. What they demand is repetition, because emotional intelligence was never a trait some people are simply born with. It is a set of specific, practiced skills, built exactly the way any other skill gets built. You can build the skills of emotional intelligence at any age. The ceiling is not genetic, it is effort. That close-up view is what turns a vague feeling into something specific enough to actually change.